Since the founding of America, attitudes on a multitude of topics have evolved. Issues such as slavery, suffrage, segregation, and even smoking in public have shifted. And with each shift of our attitudes, people have noted a bellwether harbinger of that shift. Sometimes a political movement, sometimes a region of the country will affect matters, but the Catholic Church has frequently affected America's national course regarding both societal issues and presidential elections. In this year's elections, we have two vice presidential candidates representing the attitudes of a sizable voting faction within the American Catholic Church, Joe Biden and Paul Ryan. Biden represents those Catholics who favor social issues, while Ryan is a favorite son of Catholics who view recent contraception legislations and same-sex marriage as a threat to their way of life. As with these two men, Catholics are evenly split, and that split is reflected in their voting decisions. In recent polls, neither side of the ticket had over 40% of the Catholic vote sewn up. I don't see how a person can separate their public life from their private life or their faith. That was the answer given by Republican vice presidential candidate Paul Ryan to the question about abortion in the sole debate he would have with the Democratic nominee Joe Biden. For his part, Biden insisted that his Catholicism defines who he is and that he accepts the church edict that life begins at conception, but added he refuses to impose that view on those he called equally devout Christians, Muslims, and Jews. Ryan also took advantage of the question to touch on the more general topic of religious liberty by suggesting that Biden and his party have tried to impose laws on Catholic institutions which contradict their religious views concerning contraception. Both parties are courting the Catholic vote this year. In 2004, John Kerry was the first Catholic candidate since John Kennedy to lose the Catholic vote in a presidential election. And in 2008, Obama and Biden won the majority of Catholics, beating McCain 54% to 45%. The worldwide reach of the internet, free speech rights, and censorship of sensitive materials are all the issues Google recently had to contend with. Why? Because the internet giant had to decide what to do about video clips from Innocence of Muslims hosted on YouTube, a site it acquired in 2006. The topic was particularly important, and even the Saudi government got involved. It told the UN's World Telecommunications Policy Forum that the film represented an obvious example of a need for greater international cooperation on what content should be restricted online. Comparing the film to already policed internet crimes as child pornography, identity theft, spam, the denial of service attacks, and malware, the Saudis declared any reasonable person would know that this film would foment violence, and indeed many innocent persons have died and been injured because of this film as a root cause. Google did ultimately restrict access to the video in certain volatile nations, but ultimately issued a statement declaring this video, which is widely available on the web, is clearly within our guidelines and so will stay on YouTube. Over the past 2 decades, strategies on how to use abortion as a political wedge issue have shifted from painting pro-choice candidates as being anti-life to coloring those same candidates as being anti-religion. Emphasis has shifted from abortion to contraception and has focused on the Catholic Church's official position that birth control is sinful and insurance mandates on employer insurance programs to provide contraception impose on their First Amendment rights by forcing them to violate their religion's tenets. However, surveys of religious beliefs on contraception in the U.S. suggest that this is actually a fringe position. A recent Pew poll suggests that 1 in 5 Americans have no religious affiliation. Meanwhile, the teachings of other American churches vary from the position of the Mormons, leaving it up to couples to decide, to the position held by United Methodists, where couples have a right and duty to use contraception. Each church has its own position, such as the teachings shared by both the United Church of Christ and Modern Judaism, which actually advocate for contraception as a responsible option. Moreover, when polled, 52% of Catholics feel that Catholic schools and hospitals should provide the option in insurance plans offered to their employees.